Hello, hello. This is Marie. Welcome to the ATR Medium. Today, we're going to talk about victim impact regulation. And our guest is Alexa Washington. Welcome, Alexa.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. I would like to, excuse me, I would like to introduce to a lot of you Julius Campbell, which I call Miko.
Good evening. I am so excited about tonight because we're going to get a chance to be encouraging tonight. We're going to hear from two wonderful ladies. Well, also Marie, which will be the third young lady. I'll be the only man on tonight, but I know that we are going to have a wonderful show. What we do here at All Things Relevant Media is we provide a platform for returning citizens. Why? Because we want to change the narrative. So often people are saying that when we come home, we are going right back to prison. The recidivist rate is rising, but I come to tell you that is not true. There are many men and women that are being successful, and we are going to give them the platform to share that success. Because like we always like to say, we may have started out wrong, but we can all finish strong. Now, I know Marie has a little bit of messages she want to share. So Marie, take it over.
Yes, I wanted to share this message with you all tonight because this may be a lot of triggers for some people. So I want to say hello. Thank you all for tuning in to ATR Media Show. Tonight's show may be a little sensitive, so please forgive us for any triggers that it may cause anyone. We are just coming here to encourage and educate on the topics that we share on ATR Media. So just like I said, we're going to sit back. We're going to try to help. We're going to encourage. And let's just start the show.
Okay, so first thing we want to do, because we got another guest coming. Has she came in yet? We got Tanaka that will be here. But while we're waiting, we want to introduce our very own Alexis Washington. Alexis, if you will, just briefly give us an introduction of who you are and what is your relationship to incarceration.
So good evening again. My name is Alexis Washington. Currently, I'm a wife, mother, advocate, school teacher. I wear many different hats. I have my own business. I just do. There's so many things that I do. Ministry. I just love to help people. That's just what I feel like my purpose and my passion is, to help others. My ministry is just that, to encourage others, especially women, young women who have gone down the same path that I have. Just to provide that support for the children that I'm in contact with every day, to just help stabilize them, give them words of encouragement, build them up, all sorts of things. There's just so many areas that I have been involved in the community. And I just love to help people. That's my passion.
Okay, and what is your relationship to incarceration? Meaning, when I say that, you know that Marie and I, there is a common denominator, if you will, for both of us have been incarcerated at one time in our lives. And now what we do is we want to allow our voices to be heard. And this is what this show is: Incarceration to Incorporation. And there are many different facets to this program. But tonight's facet is primarily allowing returning citizens an opportunity to ask questions, those questions that they've been dying to ask for so many years, but have been afraid. And those questions are basically to those whom we have harmed. As a returning citizen, we were incarcerated because we hurt someone or something, we did something, and someone became a victim as a result of that crime, consequences that we made. Well, we want to hear from your voice. We want to hear how you will allow us to hear from you what you've been thinking and how you felt and how you were able to mature and be healed. And so we want to hear from you tonight. And those of you that are listening, we have those that are out on Facebook and YouTube. We also have those that are listening on Jessup radio station. So you have an array of audiences, returning citizens and the community. So tell us a little bit about how you relate to incarceration. If you don't feel comfortable telling us the specifics, you can just basically be surface about it.
I think her
Most of my
You went out, Alexis. Make sure you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, your mic was going out. Go ahead.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Are you able to hear me? Okay. I'm sorry about that. So just like with most of our listeners, they have had some sort of interaction with incarceration in one way or another. I'm no different. I have had different facets of with my relationship with incarceration. So my deceased husband, he was incarcerated for a couple of years, and I supported him in that arena. And when I say support, you know how that is when you have a loved one that's incarcerated. Someone has to be on the outside taking care of the business and just providing that support. So that's one relationship that I have with incarceration. Next, that same husband, he's deceased now. He was killed back in 2003, and the two offenders, there were two guys, the two offenders, they were incarcerated, and I was reintroduced to that arena. So that would be another connection that I have with incarceration, because at the beginning of that incident, that situation, I was connected with victim witness assistance and services that they provide. And so that was one way that I was connected with incarceration. And then the third way that I was connected with incarceration is that I started an organization a couple of years ago where I was providing a home for returning citizens. And I had a contract with one of the prisons, the local prisons here, where they would identify persons or offenders who were getting ready to be released, and they needed a place to go. And so they would contact me. We would meet to discuss if they would be a good fit for the home. It was called Rejoice House. And so we would see if they would be a good fit for that home. And that was another way in which I was connected to the incarceration arena.
Okay, great. Thank you. And we definitely want to come back because if you've heard her clear, not only that has she experienced the victimization of returning citizens, but that did not hinder her from reaching out and starting an organization that will help returning citizens. So we are going to entertain that a little more. But I see now we have Ms. Tanaka on. So Ms. Tanaka, would you tell us briefly who you are and what is your relationship to incarceration?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tanaka. Um, my organization assists parents with kids of murder and the surviving siblings. Um, I'm kind of like more in the middle. So the reason why I say I'm more like in the middle is because I had a godson that was incarcerated, wrongly convicted. But while we was in the mix of trying to get him free, he died in prison for from neglect of receiving medical assistance. Um, that's why I'm a part of the return citizen part. So I have to say I see it from both angles. As being a surviving mom of a murder victim, which is why I started my nonprofit, and it was a dialogue that Julius and I had, and one of the individuals that was at a meeting brought up that they should have the right to have the right to reach out to the families to have more like a victim impact almost statement. And my agreement, well, I disagree with it, put it like that, because I had to explain that it's a process. It's a process, and you cannot rob the family of that process just because that individual who has put that family in that bad situation is not ready for it, but you're ready. So if you really sincere and regretful of what you did, then you have to allow that process to happen, and you all end up meeting in the middle.
May I ask a question to Alexa and to Tanaka?
Yes.
How do you go on after your son and your husband have been taken away from you?
You want to go first, Alexis?
I'll let you go first.
Well, it's been a process. It's been actually 11 years.
Okay.
So it took me a very long time to really still accept it, is the word.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I could say it took a long time to accept it because not only was I going through the process, but I had to move the way that my other son had to move. So it's a joint process.
Right.
And it took me actually to relocate from my family, really, to even start learning how to take more care of me.
Right.
So I was telling some other individuals, and when I say that is I just came to grips that I just finally laid his headstone just this year.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm now finally starting to go through my grieving steps because I had to remove myself from all the ones who did love him.
Right.
Space to find my own space because I was lost into theirs. So, and that's why I started the nonprofit, because actually during the eulogy, it was told that he was getting ready to work with some of the individuals in the community. So I just picked up to start fulfilling what his dream was.
Does that make you feel better?
It actually does. That's my healing process.
Okay.
My healing process is to know that I can help someone else and not just sit and grieve about mine, and walk through them with that process.
Okay.
Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're welcome. Alexa.
Alexis.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
Okay.
So with me, it was a little bit different, and I think the relationships, and we have to be very honest and candid about it, is that it depends on the relationship that you have with the individual that passed away or that was victimized.
Yes.
So for Tanaka, it was her son. So her feelings are going to be a little bit different than mine. Mine was my husband. Okay. So I didn't give birth to my husband. So she's speaking from a grieving mother. I'm speaking from a grieving wife.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that that is clear and understood. But in addition to that, when I got remarried, my husband's children became my children. And not even a year into our marriage, his oldest son was killed. So I kind of, not really, because there again, I didn't give birth to him, but he's still my son through marriage. So I still lost another son through victimization. So I can understand the grieving mother aspect of it. But what got me through as a grieving wife, and this was just a true testament of that process that Tanaka was sharing. One day, and I was very depressed. I was very depressed. It was just like a deep, dark hole that I was in. And I couldn't see my way out. Everything was darkness. Everything around me. I had so many people around me during this time, but I still felt alone. And it's a type of loneliness that just cannot be explained. You feel like you're walking through this all by yourself. But one day I was laying on my mom's sofa because, to be honest with you, that was about all the strength and energy that I had. It was from the bed to the sofa, from the sofa back to the bed. And that's how I spent most of my days. But one day I was laying on the sofa. And in my mom's neighborhood, people used to be out all the time. Children, people just walking, playing, kids in the street. And one day I was laying on the sofa in my normal routine of loneliness and darkness and depression. And I looked out the front door and I just saw people, and they were alive, and they were walking, and they were talking, and they were living life. And I sat up and I just looked at those people. And that's when I realized that I wasn't living. I was just existing. It wasn't people say, oh, we're going to get through it day by day. For me, it had to be minute by minute, hour by hour. It was very small baby steps for me. I really didn't know what the next day held because I wasn't even thinking about the next day. I was just trying to survive that next minute, that next hour, that next it's a second. It's a feeling that you can't explain. But when I saw those people, I believe it was an awakening. It was an eye opener that I knew I had to get up from there. I knew that I had more purpose in life. I knew that I had a calling in life. I knew that I had to do something in life. And I didn't know what that something was, but I knew I had to get up from that place. And a part of the second part to that testament is when I began to get out and I began to get around people outside of my immediate family. This guy, and I really believe he was an angel sent by God to send me this message. I'm not going to get into the circumstance of it, but the gist of it is that he told me, he said, in the Bible, it says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. He said, notice David didn't sit around. He walked through it. And I believe that was a message from the Lord sent by this man. I never saw him and I'm really good with faces, but I've never seen that man before then, and I haven't seen him after. So I believe that it was a message that he had to send to encourage me, that I had to keep going. I couldn't sit around in that deep, dark place, that I had to come through. I had to break through and break out. And that's what caused me to come out on the other side. Well, that was the beginning of the process, because it is a process.
Yes, it is.
Awesome. I wanted to add here, because I'm listening, and what we want is definitely for the first part of this program is to hear your voice, because so often returning citizens don't get a chance to hear your voice. And the reason why, and I just want to share this, is because we have been told when it's in the prison system never to contact victims. That's what we were told to do, even also made fearful in doing so. Now, whether the courts thought that was a wise thing to do or not, I don't know. I can't speak to that. But I do know that there were many men and women that I've talked to that wanted to at least say something so that the victims didn't think that they did not care. So we want to hear your voice. So I have a tough question. my question is, and either you can, I guess, Tanaka, you can go first, and then you go, Alexis. But did you want to hear from the victim in your case, whether it was at the beginning of the situation or in the process?
I wanted to know at the beginning because at my victim impact statement, I mentioned to the young guy, his mom didn't show, but his dad did. And my question was to the guy is, why would you do what you did when you just celebrated your 22nd birthday? 22nd birthday that January. But you robbed my son of celebrating his 21st birthday when we was getting ready to celebrate his 21st birthday. You robbed him 5 days before he turned 21. So I asked that question. He gave me no response. So to me, later on, I wouldn't even accept what he had to say, because to me, if you're sincere about your apology, at that point in time was the door opening for you to at least apologize. And then as time went by, maybe further on saying something more. But you didn't even have the audacity to even apologize at that moment. You just stared.
Okay.
So.
Alexa, before you go, let me explain what victim impact statement, because Tanaka used it and we want our audience to know what that term means. So let me read here. A victim impact statement. A victim impact statement is a written or oral statement made as a part of the judicial legal process, which allows crime victims the opportunity to speak during the sentence or subsequently during the parole hearing. And so that is at the point of the courtroom situation, the victim can speak then, or after the person has gotten their time and they're coming up for parole, they have an opportunity to write in verbal or written statement. So that's why I want the people to understand what that means.
So can I just ask that you change a little of the wording? It should say surviving, because the victim may not be there, but their family are there. So they are considered as survivors, not victims.
Thank you. So that's a better term we should use for today, survivors? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because I am a survivor, because I'm still here being his voice. And my other son is still here being his voice.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. And now I know this is an area that we may have been ignorant. So the proper term is not victim, but survivor.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Lexus?
And we can't even say and or victim or surviving, because some people do survive their incidents and they're able to speak or advocate for, be an advocate for themselves. So I think it's fair we can say and or, but in this instance, I agree with the surviving little component. And so the question, are we dealing specifically with the victim impact statement?
Well, no, we're dealing with just the simple question is, did you want to hear from the returning citizen, the person that harmed you or your loved one at that time or any time throughout the course of this time?
Okay, I think I heard Tanaka say that she initially wanted to hear from them. So my situation was the total opposite with my husband. So I'm going to deal with it two-part. I'm going to deal from my husband aspect, my deceased husband aspect, and then my stepson. Okay, so as a widow, it was a total opposite for me, Tanaka. I didn't want to hear anything. There was nothing that they could have said to me to soothe my soul, to give me comfort, peace about what was done. I didn't want to hear anything from them. As a matter of fact, I didn't attend the sentencing. It wasn't intentional. It wasn't that I intentionally, said I'm not going to go because I'm not going to give a statement. However, I believe it was orchestrated that I not be there. Okay. So there was nothing that they could have said to me at that place in time in my life that was going to bring healing for me. Mine was a process. It came over a period of time. I believe I had to go through some necessary steps on my own. And what I mean by that, and I'm just being open and honest, at that particular time, I was not saved. I did not have a relationship with the Lord. But when I did get saved, there was a process that the Lord had to deal with me in my heart, with some things that didn't even have anything to do with my deceased husband. It was specifically with the matters of my heart. And as the Lord began to deal with me and begin to peel those layers back, then all of that unforgiveness, that hurt that was directly connected to that is what I had to deal with. And then it came down to the point where I had to deal with it. There was no escape from it. That I had to deal with it head on. And then it was at that point that I realized, you know what? I never even heard from them. I never even heard them speak about this at all. An apology, something, an explanation, something would be nice. So mine came later, as far as being, with my deceased husband. Now with my stepson, my husband, he's not good with words when it comes to things like that. So he asked me to write his victim impact statement. And I did. And when we got to the sentencing, he was going to read it. He had already, I just wrote what I felt would have been on his heart. I couldn't explain what was on his heart, but I wrote out of my heart. Okay. And I made it relevant to his fatherhood, to my stepson's daughter. He had an infant daughter. I made it relevant to all of those people, to his mom. And when we got to the sentencing and it came time for him to read the victim impact statement, he couldn't do it. And so he asked me to do it, and I was like put on the spot. And I did. And I went up there and I read it off the paper just like this. I never looked or engaged the audience as I read. But when I finished and I looked up, there was not a dry eye in the courtroom. And so as far as the impact statement goes, I believe it is a right that should be offered to the surviving family, or if that victim survived, to explain how that crime has made that impact, because that impact is a significant, it can leave a significant major effect on the family. And I believe that that is a judicial right that families should have. Because I think that that is the first step to healing, is talking about it. You got to talk about it. You have to open up, and it's okay to let anybody that's willing to listen know how you feel. But we also have to be mindful that how I feel today may not be how I feel tomorrow, 10 months from now, 10 years from now, or 20 years from now, if the Lord spare our life. So what I'm saying is that in that process of time, there should be a change.
So
and
let
if
me
you
let me
still
cla-
feel
let,
the
so
same,
let me clarify something, Alexis.
Mhm.
When I made the statement that I would have preferred the person to say something, at least apologize that moment, does not mean that I had forgave. Does not mean that I was not angry. I'm still in that space today. So I want to clarify that part, because of the, and no, I was somewhat into church and somewhat not. But it pushed me even further back from church because of the simple fact of how the clergies and everyone else that came biblically that was approaching, because of the way they were saying, well, God don't make mistakes, you need to get over things like that. So it just enraged the anger.
Right.
So even though the guy was there, I still wanted to hear, at least make me believe, if that's what you really believe, was really meaning to do, that you were sorry. So that's what I mean when I say that. So no, I was not in a forgiving state, and neither was my family, because I had to see my other son go through what he's going through, and he's still going through it today. So yeah, sometimes it pushed me back to my anger, especially when it's time for his birthday, because you got to be mindful. He was murdered May 21st, his birthday May 26th. So my family go through a lot when it comes to that. It really took a toll on my mom. and everybody else. So it's a process, and I'm still going through that process. That's why I say a lot of the things I had to take the time to do myself. So I'm taking the steps, and the steps is to make sure that I'm walking those steps with other families. It's my healing process.
So
And
go ahead. So Tanaka, in walking in the steps with other families, right?
Mhm.
And you heard the way you heard. So do you believe that people ought to have a second chance?
I believe it depends on the circumstances. To me, I'm being honest with you of your question.
Okay.
So, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I don't have a second chance. I don't have any grandkids.
Right.
In the second chance, I mean, I don't get a second chance. Every time I want to spend my son's birthday, every time I want to feel like I want to talk to my son, I have to put a blanket down and I have to lay next to him and I talk to him and tell him, because we were so close.
Right.
So, and it depends on the circumstances. That's just like if the person did harm to a child. No. A person did something to a senior citizen. No. Because you're not giving people that opportunity or choice. You're robbing them of that choice. When you have a choice yourself, whether to pull that trigger, run into somebody in a car accident, you still have those choices that you rob not only that victim, but that family. So it depends. And again, it depends because some people do it when they're on drugs and not knowing.
Right.
So it's all different kind of factors that play a part of it.
I want to ask
kind of like a broad question.
Let me ask this, because I want Alexis to answer this. But I want to give you, I think we jumped over a key term, the word forgiveness. I think that is a key term. And then, Alexis, I want you to answer the very same question. Do you believe that a person, do you believe in second chances? But let me define the word forgiveness. And I thought this was important because I saw 3 definitions. Now, Tanaka told us about different factors as it relates to her belief in second chances. So I saw different definitions as it relates to the word forgiveness. The first definition I saw was to cancel a debt. To cancel a debt. The second definition that I saw, which I believe is not as in depth as the third, the second definition was to stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone for an offense, a flaw, or a mistake. To stop feeling anger or resentment to someone against what they've done. And the third one, which I believe was the best definition of all, was it says forgiveness in a psychological sense is the intentional and voluntary process by which one who may initially be feeling victimized undergoes a change in feelings and attitude regarding a given offense. Now, let me read that one more time. It is an intentional, voluntary process which one who may be feeling initially victimized, they undergo a change in feelings and attitude regarding a given offense and overcome negative emotions such as vengeance. So, with that being stated, you go, Alexis. Do you believe in second chances, and do you believe in forgiveness in one of those realms?
Let me piggyback off of forgiveness now.
Okay.
Let me hit that real quick. The Greek translation just simply means to let go. Simple. Greek translation means to let go. It's hard, but you can do it. You can let it go. I had to do it. Do I believe in second chances? Do I believe that offenders should get a second chance? I'm going to say it like this: who you see now and who I have introduced myself to you as now, I wasn't always this person. And if God did not give me not a second chance, but several chances, I would not be here today. Okay? Because I myself have offended others.
Right.
I myself have been the offender. I may not have pulled the trigger and taken someone's life, but I can tell you with just such transparency and sincerity of heart that I know I have hurt other people to the point where I have torn them down. Okay? I know I have caused pain. And I know that when God changed me, I wanted those same people that I hurt to forgive me. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
it would be hypocritical for me to say, a person that's standing here and say, you know what, I know I needed another chance. I know not a second chance. I needed some chances, time after time. Okay. And so it would be hypocritical for me to say that.
So wait a
No,
minute, wait a minute. Let's stop this. Let's stop here, Alexis. I want to ask a question. With your new husband, because it was his child, not your child. Has he forgiven?
My husband doesn't talk about it, and it's a very sensitive. Where he is and where I am, it's two totally different.
Correct.
And I don't think it will be safe for you or fair. Let me say that I don't think it will be fair for me to speak on where he is and what he's gone through.
No.
Because
I was just asking to see the difference is, like you stated, you didn't carry him. He helped.
I was speaking about my husband.
No, not right. No, I was just asking a different question. When you were saying how you're in the forgiving part. So I was asking you, did your husband learn how to forgive? Only reason I asked that question is because he helped make that child. You're speaking about your because you're a widow. I'm sorry, but I was speaking as far as with you being a stepmom.
Right, but I clarified, and that's why I wanted to clarify that at the very, very beginning, because I know that the relationships are going to carry a different pain. You know, and we have to be honest about that. And I want to make that very early on. And that's with sympathy with your situation. However, if it was my mother, my father, my brother, my own child, it's still the same thing. Because we cannot, I'm not talking about the pain. I didn't say the pain. When I said the same thing, it's still the same. I'm not going to retract what I said. I know that if I need forgiveness, I cannot put myself on a pedestal and say, you know what? I need forgiveness. I know I need God to forgive me. Okay, we can just even make it simple. Okay, I know I need God to forgive me. And I'm not talking about things of the past. I could have done something yesterday and I'm still going to say, God, I need, and we say it in such a cliche. And I think that's where people kind of just, they hop over it real quick. God forgive me. And they go right on. But no, you're really asking God to dismiss and discharge what you did. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I'm not talking about the level of pain. I'm not talking about the loss of a child. I'm talking about forgiveness. It's the same thing. It's going to be the same thing for me as it is for the next person and the next person and the next person. And I think we're trying to measure, if you will, the difference between if it's a child or if it's a husband or if it's a stepchild or if it doesn't matter. Forgiveness is still forgiveness. Okay, God is on the throne and we're here. If I go to God and say, God, I know I did not meet your expectation in this area. It doesn't matter if I took somebody's life or if I said a bad word or if I stole something out the grocery store. I fell short and I need forgiveness. How can I go and say, God, I need you to forgive me for doing this, if I can't forgive something that somebody just did or said to me? I mean, it doesn't work one dimensional.
Let me stop real quick right there and interject for our listeners. We have Miss Janice Hall. She asked a question. She says, I have a question. Is this a segment on the loss of a loved one and how to forgive and move on? Or is this incarceration to incorporation? It is totally different. Well, I beg to differ, Miss Janice, because for those of us who are coming home as returning citizens, we want victory and success in every segment of our lives, not just in the financial aspect, not just in the relational aspect, but every aspect. And then incarceration to incarceration is to encourage our men and women that are still behind the prison wall because they're getting ready to come home and they have questions. So our audience is twofold. We are talking to returning citizens and the community on the outside, but we are also in jails and prisons, and we're trying to give hope and encouragement to them as well. Secondly, Brett Campbell, he is on, and also a host of others have joined in. So I just wanted to let you know that we are listening, that we see your statements, and we will honor your question when they come on. Brett Campbell says, it's a weight that no one should carry forever because the offender may have gone to God and have asked for forgiveness. Miss Quinteria White says, glad to see you, Mama Shard. This is your sister. And I have one last question that was asked, and it's for both of you. Do you even care to know what the offender has done since he or she has been incarcerated? In other words, if they have made rehabilitation, if they have gotten education, if they have grown and completely changed their lives, does that matter in the process of your healing? You go ahead, Tanaka.
I would say yes. It is, to me, it's very important to know that part, because to me that goes like almost hand in hand. It could help with some of the healing process to know that maybe it can go into the biblical way too, that sometimes God has to put us in positions for us to get his attention. You have to sit still. So if that person is taking that time to process what they did wrong and the impact they not only caused themselves, but also their families, as well as the other family that they hurt. So if you're changing and you may be doing the right way to succeed, they may not be able to come home. But it's still things that even behind bars, you can be still doing a great impact while you're in there for those that's out here, because some of them have kids. So that's even a part of the role that I even want to be playing a very important role too when it comes to those that's still incarcerated, because I realize you do have a lot of men and women that's incarcerated that left kids out here that's trying to figure out their and find a way because their parents are incarcerated or the kid may have been a victim then. So you still have them now playing the role of the surviving parent. So they still got to go through their different grief. So it's different hand in hand. That's why I say I'm in the middle when it comes to a lot of different things. And for the person that asked that question, is this about grief or is this about incarceration? It's about both, because it's about trying to figure out how to meet in the middle and not be so divided. So that's the importance of this here podcast of what I'm getting. And I want to thank Julius and Marie for even having me to be a part of this, because a lot of the people are afraid to ask these questions that he's now putting on the platform for others to know how to even go about it. Maybe the ones that they have family members incarcerated. At least they could prepare their family members to guide them and say, hey, this is what you need to do. If you want forgiveness and you want that family to know before you go pass on, you need to let that family know. And right. Not only that, you need to know it within your heart. True. So those, to me, again, this is like a hand in hand, and I applaud you. And I thank you, because a lot of the times, moms like me, we don't get those these platforms because it's not a high profile as they consider it as.
Okay. Tanaka.
So I thank you.
Tanaka, you know what?
Yes.
I like what you say, that you're in the middle. And what you're saying about you being in the middle, I know that you're hurting, you miss your son, but I truly believe that you're going to forgive.
And I will. And I'm not saying I would never
just to hear you speak just a few minutes ago, I truly believe that you will forget. What would your son say if he? What would you think your son would say to you? What would you think? He wouldn't want you to be mad forever.
And he wouldn't. And you're absolutely right, because that's the type of person he was.
Right.
You know, and I use his way and his demeanor as a platform, but it also made me a little angry because in my heart, this is what I feel.
Right.
Had I not made him, I've always taught my sons to be there for someone. If a person don't have, give whatever you give, things like that. And his thing will be, this person, you can't be mad all the time. You got to move on. You got to forgive. My youngest son still said now.
Right.
But it pushes back because every time, again, that may come and I see my son, and that when my family want to get together and have those memorable moments and we got to go to the site, we laugh, we do different, I said we do different skits.
Right.
But when we try to do so much, my son feel like it's a violation of his space. It's like it's robbing him more and more. So as a mother, it's going to push me back, even though I may take 5 steps forward. But when you see your child that you can't fix, and I'm used to being that mom that's going to fix whatever needs to be done. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But that's a pain that I can't. That's a pain that almost destroyed me and my son from getting closer, that I didn't understand. It was dividing us after my oldest son was murdered, because they're 2 years apart, not a month apart. But I didn't understand the difference of the grief.
Right.
So it took one of my friends to explain to me, because I would never let him see me grieve. So I had to be taught and learn that by me not allowing him to see that, in his mindset is that I didn't care about his life. So it's all a process of me going through what I need to go through to get him through what he need to go through. And once I can get to that point, then I can start focusing on, the healing and the process part and the forgiveness. I truly believe it. Because I don't think I would be capable of being able to do the things that I'm doing for the other families.
Right.
So the answer to your question, Marie,
And I like that Marie mentioned that, because that has been like on my heart all day long. Like, my deceased husband, knowing him, the person that he revealed himself to me, he would not want me to walk around like that for the rest of my life. He would want me to forgive. And I kept saying it. And it was just like confirmation when you said it. I was like, okay, Marie, it's almost like you was in my thoughts all day. And so I wrote this down. It says, your willingness to forgive the offender does not minimize your loyalty to your loved one.
Right.
And that's what happens a lot of time. A lot of times people, may think, and I'm not saying this for Tanaka, but I'm just saying in general statement, that if you show any signs of forgiveness to the offender, it makes you feel or portray that you're being disloyal to your loved one. That's not what that is. No. That's not what that is. Your willingness, and I put the word willingness when I wrote this quote down. Willingness, because you got to be willing to forgive the offender, does not minimize your loyalty to your loved one. You can still be an advocate for your loved one. You can still help families, and you can still take your stance and do what you do and be effective with helping others and not being disloyal.
Let me ask you this, because I love that statement. So what I want you to do is repeat that quote before you answer the next question. And Tanaka, you'll answer it after she finishes. The question is, how long is long enough for a person who's an offender that, let's just say they did 20, 30, 40 years in prison? How long is long enough for an offender? Now, and I want you to tell me that story, or tell the audience. You remember when you told me that story that your son said as it relates to, I believe it was one of the letters when he said that one of the letters came in for the victim's impact statement, and you remember what your son said?
I do.
Okay, so quote that statement again, and then answer, and then tell that story, and then answer the question: how long is long enough?
So the quote is, your willingness to forgive the offender does not minimize your loyalty to your loved one. Your willingness to forgive the offender does not minimize your loyalty to your loved one. As far as that question goes, how long is long enough? I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. Now, where I was when it first happened, almost 18 years ago, I am not there now. Okay. So where I am now, I will say this. I cannot play judge, jury, and bailiff in somebody else's life. That is not, that's not what I'm here to do. Okay. I cannot determine what's long enough as far as rehabilitation. I won't even do it, but I will stand on this. And this is what gives me comfort. The Bible tells me that vengeance is mine, said the Lord, and I will repay. Whatever God's payment and judgment is for the offender's life, I am okay with it. That relieves me of trying to issue a judgment to somebody else. That keeps me safe. That keeps me out of trouble. Okay? That keeps me out of trouble. Because while we may be standing on this side, one day you never know where you might be standing on the other side. You never know what may come up. It could be your nephew, your cousin, and they may get into some trouble and you want somebody to have mercy on them. Okay. So what I'm saying is, I won't say, I'm not going to avoid answering the question, but I will say I'm okay with whatever the Lord says. Whatever the repayment is, I'm okay with that. And it's well with my soul. And I mean that with everything within me, whether it doesn't matter the relationship of the victim. I'm okay with what the Lord says. I can't do that. That's too much for me. My deceased husband, every single year, the Board of Pardons and Parole will reach out to me to issue to invite me to do an impact statement. And I would do it faithfully every single time. And all of these letters would go into the offender's file. So one year I got the letter, I wrote it and everything, because one of the young men, he's already out. And they asked me before he was released, did I have anything I wanted to say? And I did. And so I shared that same invitation with my deceased husband's biological son. He's grown now. And I told him, I said, hey, you can write a letter, a victim impact statement, and, they will listen to you and they will honor, how you feel. And I explained him, and he told me with no uncertainty that it was okay with him. He did not have to write a letter. It is all right. He forgave and he let it go, and he was at a place of healing. And it was then at that point that I realized that, and I made up in my mind, I made a decision that I was not going to write another letter, because that's his dad. And if he can say, I forgive, and I don't want to have any say so in what these men have to go through as far as being incarcerated, then I felt like I could do the same. And he actually inspired me, because I was just going to write a letter, because I can write a letter, that's not a problem for me. And I was going to do it because they offered me, it was an invitation, and so I did it. But when he said that to me in his own words, in his own way, it touched my heart. It touched my heart. And I said, if he can let it go, I certainly can let it go. And I decided that day that I was not going to try to have any influence or any impact on what happens to the young men, the two men, from that day forward.
Tanaka?
That still goes back to the second, the previous question. I'm still in the middle with it.
Okay.
And it goes back to what you just asked. If they can show that while they're in there and they're showing the changes that they're doing, and they're willing to come out here and want to show change and invest in doing a positive in the community, I'm all for it. But again, that goes still to the process of forgiveness. And when I make decisions, I don't just make decisions by myself. There's nothing I do that I don't include my son. So I have to make sure that, because even when the guy took a plea, and I thank God that I didn't have to go through a lot of the things that I've seen some families have, some mothers had to go through, of holding the, control of the emotions and the feelings, and to see things that I have never saw of my son. All I can still remember the vision of how he was. I didn't have to see the other stuff that other families did. So I had accepted the fact that when the guy wanted to take the plea, so a little bit it is a forgiveness, because I was okay with the plea.
Okay.
But you have to want to show initiative that you want to change as well, in order for somebody to say enough is enough. Because if you're not saying enough is enough for yourself, of showing the changes while you in there, to me, it's really your call to say when is enough. It's your decision of what you're showing, of what you're willing to give back, of what decision that you made wrong. That's how I see it. It's not for me to make that decision.
So
That's
we're
why
ready
when trying to do the death penalty, I couldn't go with the death penalty. My heart, my soul, regardless, still, I couldn't accept that part.
we need a part 2 to this because
Mhm.
so much. Because right now we only have 5 minutes, and we're getting ready to close. The time has passed. But what I want to do is I want to give you ladies an opportunity to speak from your heart to two sets of people, those that are still on the inside. And I want you to know, there are men and women who have changed, who are being rehabilitated. And there is a track record. I'm talking about not just 2 or 3 years, but I'm talking about those that have long-term sentences, 20 years of consistency, no disciplinary reports, doing wonderful. There are those men and women there that have changed. I would like for you to speak to just what word of encouragement would you share, whether those that are on the inside or those returning citizens that have come home. Tanaka, you start, and then Alexis, you end. Remember, we have 5 minutes.
Well, I interact with a lot of returned citizens, and I'm all for whatever it needs that need to happen for them to stay on the right track while here. I'm all for it. As far as those individuals that's still inside, I'll say continue doing what they're doing to show the positive of that they're ready to come out here in society. And maybe someday, in some way, who knows, maybe after we finish this here podcast, we can probably sit down and network and figure out some plans of how we can now get the system to now focus on those that have spent the 20 plus years, that's showing that they are good, positive role models that's in the system, to show why and how that they should be coming home to society, that they can actually give some strong inputs, because our generation now has changed. And those strong points of those individuals who done did the 20 some plus years are the ones who, to me, can really reach our youth right now, because we're not the ones, even though you may have been a re-entry individual, the society has changed. So I think that will play a major role in the community right now today, because they need to know the severity of it, and not just somebody who hasn't experienced it. Because I can't tell them, hey, you shouldn't do that. I don't even try to tell them. One of the things, and that's why I get so close to the individuals that's out here, because I speak with them and not at them.
Okay. Alexis?
One thing that I would just say to encourage them is just to be that role model. Just walk it out day by day. Just stay the course, stay focused. If you are sincere about coming back out, returning into the community, doing the right thing, just make sure you surround yourself with positive people. Get you a support system that is going to undergird you, that is going to support you in a positive way, and just stay the course. You do not have to repeat these offenses. You don't have to go back, and just make sure to just hold your head up and just be strong, because you do not have to at the same time, you don't have to keep rehashing and reliving what you did in your past. Your past does not have to define your future. If you are sincere about re-entering back into society and being a productive citizen, just stay the course. Surround yourself with positive people and just keep your head up.
Amen. Marie, what you want to share?
I thank you all for coming tonight, Tanaka and Alexis. I thank you all for coming on. Tonight has been really good for me because the forgiveness part, that's a thing for me also. I've been a victim. My kid's father got killed, so I know the feeling of that only as a mate, but not as my son. But forgiveness is still a powerful thing, and I know that Tanaka's going to do it. I know she is. I know she is. That love, that drive that you have for your son, he's pushing you and saying, Mom, guess what? Let it go.
Marie, don't try to make me cry here.
I know you're going to do it. I know you're going to do it. I see it when you talk. You're going to do it. It's going to be a cool thing.
There's a young lady on, and again, her name is Janice. Janice was speaking to us, Miss Hall, and she says that she understands what you have been saying. She has went through the gambit of emotions. She lost she said she was incarcerated herself, but she went through a program and she got healing, and she lost her biological child, and her mom died of a broken heart, and she wanted revenge also, but she has grown and matured, and God, she said, the Spirit has came over me and helped me to be able to deal what I'm dealing with. God has made me strong. And she goes on to say that it is because of her faith that God showed her that light. So I just thank you, Janice, for watching. And for those returning citizens, one said that it's difficult for them to show that they are changing. Well, survivors or victims can contact chaplains, counselors, and just and inquire, how is this individual doing, so that you can know that these people are changing. Marie and I also are returning citizens. I am so glad that we were forgiven by God and by those that we've harmed. And look at what we're doing now. We have an opportunity to give a platform, but also to show the world that rehabilitation and repentance is real. So we thank you for joining us. Ladies, we're going to try to have y'all come back. Again, we appreciate you. Again, I like what Julius Hall said. A debt paid is no longer a debt. And I believe in forgiveness as well. We appreciate you. Thank you for the healing that you have received, and also for the healing that you have. And in your case, Tanaka, will so give back again. Thank you again for joining us on Incarceration to Incorporation.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, y'all.
Good night.